Hi, welcome to Bright Hope Creations. I'm Kara, and today we're doing some no-line coloring with alcohol markers and colored pencil. So I'm using the Jellyfish ink to ink up my little trampoline there for the bunny, and clean that off, and now I'll stamp my bunny. And I'm using a very small panel. This is the outside in stitched rectangle because I just want to focus on that little bunny bouncing off the trampoline. I also stamped it in jet black so you could follow along and see the image while I'm coloring. I start with the light warm gray, and I found all my shadows, but now I'm showing you where those shadows are with the W1, and they are exactly where I put the lightest color. I did that first so that I could be confident about where these shadows are. So now that I'm coming in with a darker color, I don't have to worry if I had something not quite right. It was light, so it won't matter. It'll be covered up. But now that I have where I want these shadows, I'm just darkening them in. And I'm deciding that the light source is from the upper right. That's typically where I go. And now that I have those in, I'm just slightly using my lighter marker to blend that out into the body. I don't go very far because right now I'm really just focusing on getting a smooth blend at the edges. This helps me refrain from getting everything blended to the point where it's just all the same if I keep that white space. So now I'm coming in with the a little bit darker, the W2, and just going to the same places and putting in those shadows. And it's just slowly defining the areas. So under his neck, in his ears, under his little back side there, and then trying to get those feet to be defined. And one way I'm defining that front foot is by coloring the negative space, or that belly part that's on the right of that front foot, so that that foot will show up more as a lighter object. Right, so I've got the W1 and just slowly blending that out a little bit more. One thing that helps me to blend is to use very little light strokes, like feathering, rather than straight lines or thick, heavy lines. So it's kind of this feathering technique helps me to bring the next lighter color in and blend it with, even if it's a small section. I still don't. Sometimes I'll color with a line, but if I can, I like to use a small flicking motion instead to kind of feather that out. So this is that W0, and now these shadows are starting to connect so that everything's kind of coming further and further into the body. I'm still avoiding the face though, because I really want that to be light, and so I haven't really brought that W0 out further there yet. It also helps to wait for the paper to dry a bit to see how things blended, and then go back and blend a little more. So this is the W2 again, and I'm coming back to those darkest areas, so in his ears and behind his head at the top and the neck. These are all the places that I started with initially, so I really just kind of keep going back and forth, blending that out now with the W1, and then I'll blend that all out further with the W0. And so for no line coloring, for me, it's a matter of just focusing on those shadows, gaining confidence of where they are, darkening them up, going one darker at a time till I feel it's the darkness I want, and then blending it out into the body. And having that image on the side really helps because it keeps me staying true to the image, the illustration. But the nice thing with no line coloring here too is that you can also change things up if you want because you're not stuck to certain lines. Now here's the W00, and that's where I'm finishing up on the face and the tips of the ears to get the light color. I'll wait on his face until I'm all done. So now we're putting in the little tail, and I'm changing to a cool gray for this. And just blending that C0 to the C00, trying to keep it pretty white. And then also on his belly, he's got a white belly. And I'm using my colorless blender to kind of blend that to white from the C00. All right, now darker, W3. I'm coming into those same areas, but just little lines or little triangles, not much, just to get it started, and then I'll blend it out. I'm gonna skip the W2 this time. First of all, my W2 was getting a little sticky. I think I need to change the nib on that, but also I want to have a more contrast between the real dark and then coming out to light. So that's why I'm going with the W1 here. And some of that stickiness caused some, I don't know, kind of modeling look on the bunny. So I will fix that with colored pencil at the end. So there's always a fix, but I will also change that nib so it doesn't happen again. So just blending the W1 in with the W0, and I'm going back to that tail, getting a little darker, and in his belly area as well. And now's the time where I'm really just blending things out. I'm looking at where the transitions are and deciding if it needs some extra blending. So getting his little knee area and trying to get the curve there and trying to define that from the foot so that these things kind of show up. And then just blending it back in. I looked at that tail and decided it needs a little bit different than just the cool gray. So I put in an E41, decided to go darker with the E42, and then blended that in with the cool gray just to give it a little different shadow there underneath him. And darkening that up with the C1. All right, not a lot to see with the trampoline, but I am just showing you that I used the B16 on the lower rims of both parts of the ring, and then blending that in with the B12. And with the top of the trampoline as well, a C6, and blending that in with the C4. So as the closer it is to me, or to us, that's darker there. I use the hillside stencil to help me define what will be the hill in the background, but I'm going to color that in, and I'm starting by just putting some texture of grass down by the trampoline and darkening that up with a G12, and 14 is the darker one. And then once I have kind of the way I think the grass is going to go, I'm kind of blending it back in to the G12 so that it's not too prominent at this point. I'm really looking more for texture than for specific blades of grass. And then I'm going to fill in the whole area with that G12. So kind of had the underlying texture and now blending all around. And I am putting this hill lower than my pencil mark because I can't color over pencil mark or my the line would stay. So I just went underneath it, and then I erased the pencil and decided I want to go all the way to the end And now I'm coming back in with the G14, darkening up some of the grassy areas and putting in some more with the G12 as well. So getting the front to be more defined because we would see that up close. And now I want that even darker and brighter, so I'm tip to tip using the G12 and G14 together. And also for the valleys that slope down, there'd be kind of a shadow there. So now that I have that, I want to start with my sky. I'm using a BG quadruple zero, and I'm just going all around, and I'm using kind of circular motions to do it. And I left a few areas white up at the top to form some clouds. And the nice thing is, if I don't like the clouds, then I can just color them over. But now I'm using the BG triple zero near the bunny to kind of show that negative space around the bunny, I guess, to darken that up so that the bunny is a little more clearly defined, and then blend that BG triple zero with the BG quadruple zero out into the sky. I'm going to put in some shadows on my clouds with the BG triple zero. Yeah, so they're very light. It's not something that's too noticeable, but I really wanted the bunny to show up and that these clouds are far away, so that's why they're just kind of lighter there. And I want to put a shadow under the trampoline, so I'm pulling the shadow from the legs and then adding in some a larger surface for where that trampoline would show on the ground. So it's a little light. I think I should have gone a little darker with that. But now that I'm looking at it, it's time to put the face on. And there's a couple ways to do this. One is just to kind of put the image over it to kind of just eyeball where it's going to be, but I was too nervous to do that one on this. So I'm taking a pencil and I took it offline and put it on a light box with that dark image behind it, and I just traced where those lines are, and I traced them thin because I'll come back and work a little bit more on those. Now, putting in the bunny's nose with an RV11 and 93, and I'm trying to keep it small. Things like that, they can grow and I can get a big nose, so I'm trying to keep it small. And now getting the mouth penciled in a little bit more. And this is a French gray Prismacolor pencil, and it is at the 50%. So it's a 50% French gray is what it's called. And getting those, all those little marks, kind of holding my breath here with that. And here's how I'm fixing up that mottled look. I wanted to give him a more realistic fur, so this is how I'm doing it. And then decided I wanted some pink in those ears. So there's the RV11. And a little lighter with the RV10. And now that I have that the way I want, I can put a little hair, kind of tufts of hair at the start of his ear. And then little tiny marks to indicate that his fur is kind of fuzzy. It's not just smooth at some spots on his body. And then this is the French gray 30% to come into some of the lighter areas and add texture there as well. Now I decided I wanted trees in the background, so with a YG61 I'm kind of just mapping them out, and then I like where I have them, so I have this YG63 and just adding them in. So it's just kind of like, I don't know, crisscross and getting a little bigger as it goes down. That's how I make my pine trees. And then with the YG67, just on the left side, kind of adding in some shadow there on those. But, you know, you could stamp little trees back there too, or just squiggle in some bushes. A lot of things you could do just to give a little more interest to the background. And I'm just going to touch up that tree on the right and give them some shadow again. There's the C0, and I think it's a little light, so, but I was a little chicken, so there it is. All right, now I'm going to put this card together, and I'm using the outside in stitched rectangles to create a frame, and I used the same one for that panel with the bunny, so I'm just taking some of my adhesive and placing it on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note card, and I'll put the bunny in the middle. The pattern paper is from the Dandy Day 6x6 paper pad, and I thought it went well with the colors in this scene. All right, well, my family said, there's no boing. How do we know he's going up? Well, all right, so I got to put in the boing. So there are some stamps in the set that kind of show the movement, and so I started off with one and did it light and thought, no, not enough boing yet. So I put in another one of those lines, and now I'm going to color it with a darker Prismacolor, a darker gray, and that's how I'm going to show he's jumping into the air. That's his movement. So I wanted to extend a few of those. And then I thought, well, since I'm still working on this, I might as well get a little bolder with my shadows. So here's the C2 under the trampoline and at the tree line as well. I hope you enjoyed the card today and that it inspires you to do a little no-line coloring too. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye!